SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar.
For infrastructure on the reservation. And in exercising its own sovereignty, the Navajo Nation is free to develop its own infrastructure projects, including by drilling water to access the cheapest source of water on the reservation, groundwater. What the Navajo Nation cannot do, however, is to impose on the United States a duty that the government has never expressly accepted. Accordingly, the judgment below should be reversed. I welcome the court's questions.
Mr. Liu, would you just take a step back and address the jurisdictional issue, particularly with respect to redressability and this court's retention of jurisdiction on the Colorado River?
Sure. We don't view the issue as going to the district court's subject matter jurisdiction. We view it as a substantive merits determination about whether the relief that could be granted at the end of this suit would violate the substance of the decree that this court entered in Arizona versus California. So I think you'd have to look at the relief that could be ordered down the road and measure it against the decree. I think everyone at this point agrees that an order by the district court in this case that would order the delivery of water from the lower mainstream of the Colorado River to the Navajo reservation would violate the decree because the decree places conditions on when such water can be delivered by the United States.
Where else would the water come from?
There's plenty of sources on the Navajo reservation. So if we're talking about the particular region of the Navajo reservation that's at issue in this complaint, the most accessible source of water on the reservation is groundwater. There are aquifers that lie beneath the reservation, and there's no impediment to the Navajo Nation accessing those water sources today. In fact, they're doing it across other parts of the reservation. Another source of possible water for this region is the upper basin, the Colorado River in the upper basin. That upper basin water is farther away than the lower Colorado mainstream, but it's far more accessible. And the reason why is if you look at the terrain of the lower Colorado mainstream that's adjacent to this part of the reservation, it is a steep canyon. The reservation is on a plateau, and then it's a 3,000 to 4,000 foot drop down the canyon to the lower Colorado River.
You said that water was farther away. How far away is it?
It still borders the reservation, but it's further north. It's just above Lee Ferry. The area we're talking about here is below Lee Ferry, so it's not much farther.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but how far away from the agricultural areas where water is needed?
Well, I think to be clear, the water needed here isn't for agricultural needs. If you read the complaint at JA 101 to 102, the needs there alleged aren't agricultural needs. They are domestic municipal needs. And I think that just highlights the mismatch between the needs here and the agricultural provisions that are relied upon in the 1868 treaty. The 1868 treaty provisions are about farming. They are about providing seeds and agricultural implements to the tribe in the original part of the reservation. The needs alleged in the complaint exist hundreds of miles away, and they're not even about agricultural needs. They're about needs for domestic and municipal consumption. If you look at the text of the treaty, and this is reproduced at 11A of our statutory appendix, the provisions at issue, this is Article 7 of the provision, they're about particular items, seeds and agricultural implements for a particular area, the tracts of land that were selected in the original reservation. They're for a limited period of time, up to 3 years, and they're for a particular amount, $100 the first year, $25 the second and third. The duty asserted here is about something else. It's about water. It's about water for a different part of the reservation, 100 miles away. It's about water for an ongoing and indefinite basis, not for a limited period of time. And the dollar amount, there's no limit. I think part of the problem, the separation of powers concerns that the claim raises, is that it's really unclear what the scope of the plan that the Navajo Nation envisions the United States will design will look like at the end.
Mr. Liu, I think you said that the Navajo Nation has, quote, hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you have a figure for how much water that is?
It is, well, an acre-feet is how much water would fill up an acre of land
Sure.
1 foot.
Right, right.
And, you know, we could
But
do
do you
that.
know how many hundreds of thousands? Do you know the amount of, has the United States calculated, or could you calculate water per capita?
I don't
Nation?
have water per capita, but to give you some examples, the San Juan settlement in New Mexico provides 37,000 acre-feet annually. You know, this covers 250,000 people over a 40-year time horizon. The appropriations associated with that are $1.9 billion. So that's sort of the magnitude. It's 300 miles of pipeline, 19 pumping plants, 2 water treatment facilities. So these are substantial facilities that the government, in furtherance of its general trust relationship, has agreed to provide.
But I understood that that was part of the Navajo's argument in this case. In other words, you say here that you don't have calculations about water per capita, and I understood that their breach of trust claim was about that, was about the fact that the United States, they say, has not done what it needs to do as a trustee to determine what their water needs are.
And I would say that there's no duty, no specific duties found in the treaty that requires us to conduct that sort of analysis.
Mr. Liu, with respect to that, there are provisions in the treaty with respect to agriculture, a promise that this will be a permanent home and that there will be opportunity for raising animals, right?
Correct.
Is it possible to have a permanent home, farm, and raise animals without water?
No.
And could the United States dam the Little Colorado right above the reservation and prevent water from flowing into the reservation?
It could do that as a matter of fact.
Well, as a matter of fact.
Right.
But as
Not
a matter
legally.
of law, could it
No.
do that? No, because that would breach the treaty obligation, right?
If the tribe were making use of the water, then it would breach, it would interfere with their exercise of their winter's rights.
Okay, so clearly there is a duty to provide some water to this tribe under the treaty, right?
No.
Wait, hold on. What am I missing? We just agreed you can't dam the Little Colorado because that would breach the treaty.
Right.
That's water, right?
Correct.
So there's some obligation with respect to water in this treaty.
There is an obligation to respect their winter's rights, just as any other landowner would have to do. But the difference here is...
And there's an obligation to provide opportunities for a permanent home. Now, let's say as a matter of state contract, I promise you a permanent home, and that you'll be able to raise animals there, and you'll be able to conduct agriculture there. Would it not be a breach of contract to then provide a home where none of those things is possible? Is that a permanent home?
I think everyone agrees that the permanent homeland comes with the bundle of sticks that I said at the outset. One of those sticks is on...
If you just answer my question, could I bring a good breach of state contract claim for someone who promised me a permanent home, the right to conduct agriculture and raise animals, if it turns out it's the Sahara Desert?
I don't think you would be able to bring a breach of contract claim.
Really?
I think...
You don't think that's a breach of good faith and fair dealing? You don't think at least it would state a claim?
I don't think so, and I'm happy to apply
If we
ordinary...
disagree with that, then what?
If
we found that might, under ordinary contract principles, state a claim,
right,
and that in fact many state courts have found such claims.
If this court thought the Hickory standard were satisfied, then there would be a judicially enforceable duty, and then we'd move on to the second step of the analysis.
And with respect to that second step, or maybe it's the first, I don't know, the jurisdictional question, you agree that the trust claim brought here is not the type of question that must be addressed before addressing whether the Navajo Nation has identified a judicially enforceable duty, right?
We don't think the jurisdictional issue needs to be addressed before. We don't think it's a jurisdictional issue, correct?
Mr. Liu, I guess I'm just not understanding the nature of your argument, so would you clarify it for me? You start by saying that the Indians have rights to water, and that they get them by virtue of having rights to land, having a reservation of this kind, and the rights to water just go along with that. Is that a matter of the treaty, or are you saying it's something else, that the rights arise some other way?
It is a matter of the treaty setting aside the land for the Indians. This is Article 2
Okay,
of the
so
treaty.
if it's a matter of the treaty, if you read the treaty as giving rights to water, right? Because you could read the treaty and say, I don't see anything about water here.
Right.
There are no rights to water. But you're not reading the treaty that way. You're saying, look, when the treaty gives land, the treaty also says, you know, implicit in that is that you have a right to the water that will enable you to live on that land. So then there seems to me to be a gap, because then you're saying, well, notwithstanding that the treaty gives water, that the treaty promises water, that's what treaties do. It's a contract that promises something. You're saying those rights are unenforceable. And I guess I don't understand, if the treaty promises water, where you get the idea that that is unenforceable.
No, the treaty does vest water rights in the tribe, and those rights are enforceable, including by the tribe. But the promise that we have allegedly breached here isn't about violating those rights. It's about violating affirmative duties to supply the water to the tribe.
Mr. Dvorsky?
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court. The Senate ratified 2 treaties with the Navajo Nation. In the 1868 treaty, the United States promised the Navajos a permanent homeland. Both parties understood that in promising the Navajos their land, the United States was also promising them the water it needed to sustain life in the arid Southwest. Those treaties are specific sources of law that give the nation rights to water and impose duties on the government to secure that water. But for years, the United States has failed to fulfill that promise. Today, the average person on the Navajo reservation uses just 7 gallons of water a day. The national average is 80 to 100 gallons. The United States agrees that on paper, the nation has treaty rights to the water its people need. We're here because the United States says it doesn't have to do anything to secure the water it promised, even though the United States also says it speaks for the Navajos as trustee of the nation's water rights. When the United States blocked the nation from intervening in Arizona versus California, it said, quote, "The United States is authorized exclusively to represent the Indian tribes in litigation affecting their property rights, and its actions are, quote, binding upon those tribes." The states say we're here to take their water behind their back. No, the nation is here for its fair share through a fair process. The nation, not the states, was cut out of Arizona versus California by the federal government and left without water. The United States thinks that it alone decides whether it has made good on its promises, but that's not how promises work. A promise is a solemn duty, and the United States' duty is to see that the nation has the water it needs and the United States promised. The nation and its people know and feel the water shortage in the Southwest. The nation asks only that the United States, as trustee, assess its people's needs and develop a plan to meet them in consultation with the nation. I welcome the Court's questions.
If it were agreed that the only source of water was the lower Colorado, would your argument be the same?
It would. The United States.
As far as jurisdiction?
Yes, it would, because the relief that we are seeking here is an assessment of the nation's needs and a plan to meet them. If that plan, if that assessment ultimately calls for allocating additional water from the lower mainstream of the Colorado, the parties might well at that point need to return to this court. But the remedy that we are seeking from the district court does not require reallocating water in a way that would contravene this court's decree.
Have you, throughout this litigation, suggested any other source than the lower Colorado?
I don't believe we have, but it's also not our burden to do so. The United States has taken on the fiduciary obligation to ensure our winters' rights. The United States itself believes that it holds the winters' rights in trust. The very first step that it needs to take is to assess and figure out its plan for how those winters' rights will be satisfied and met. And so it is the United States' duty to figure out where that water ought to come from. But as has been discussed earlier, and as I think Mr. Liu acknowledges, there are other potential sources besides the Colorado, besides the lower mainstream, including the upper mainstream, the Zuni River, the San Juan River. There are other potential pertinent water sources that could supply water to the reservation.
Counsel, prior to the execution of the treaty, the Navajo were, of course, forcibly removed from their reservation to an area that they turned out were not able to grow crops on. And then the agreement with General Sherman, they were allowed to move back. Why isn't the permanent home feature a reference to that? In other words, they didn't want, again, to be moved off of their current home.
2 points, Mr. Chief Justice. One, I think permanent home has to be understood in light of how Winters understood that term, which is to include water that is necessary for life as a permanent homeland. But second, to get to the factual premise of your question, when the Navajos returned to a portion of their permanent homeland, they were returning under very different conditions than they had been there before. They would at that point, under the treaties, be under the protection and jurisdiction of the United States. They would no longer have free reign of the territory to be able to access water in the same way that they were before. They would no longer be able to leave the reservation in the same way that they were before. And so the situation had changed, and they were dependent on the government for access to water, just as they had been at Bosque Redondo, which in the unlivable conditions there.
The treaty specifically mentions a variety of things that would be necessary for agriculture. The 15,000 sheep, however many cattle, the seeds. If the water were, why wasn't the water mentioned? As your argument now is it's necessarily implicit, but the other things were spelled out. Wouldn't you have spelled out the water at the time?
Well, the other things were spelled out, and as you pointed out, Mr. Chief Justice, the other things were spelled out with numbers. They could be very specifically enumerated in that way. Water was something that was simply inherent in the permanent homeland and making it suitable both as a permanent homeland and for the very purpose of agriculture. As the court recognized in Winters, if you have a permanent homeland for agriculture, both of which were features of the reservation in Winters as well, if you have those things, you can't carry out the purpose of that agreement without also having water. And so it didn't need to be, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, it didn't need to be spelled out because it was an essential component of fulfilling the purposes of the agreement.
As I understand the government's argument, the government is not contesting that the treaty gives the Navajo Nation water rights. It's simply contesting what the nature of its own responsibility is with respect to those rights. So the question is, what duties attach to the government? And the government is saying the duty that attaches to it is that it can't interfere with the Navajo Nation's water rights, but it has no affirmative obligation to ensure that the Navajo Nation has a supply of water. And it seems to me that that's the difference between the two of you, not whether the treaty conveys a promise as to water. The government agrees that it does. The government is just saying it has no affirmative duty with respect to the supply of water. So what's your answer to that?
Justice Kagan, I think the government's conduct, both in Arizona versus California and in other cases, belies the notion that the treaty just gives the tribe a stick in a bundle to do with as it wishes. The government itself, its own conduct, shows that it believes it has affirmative duties. In Arizona versus California, the United States said that it spoke for the nation. More recently, in a January 2022 intervention motion in New Mexico litigation, the government said again, quote, "The United States is the legal owner of all water rights recognized for the Navajo Nation, holding these rights in trust for the Navajo Nation." So the United States is controlling these Winters rights, and in certain instances, like Arizona versus California, blocking the nation from asserting those rights for itself. So this is not a situation where the United States simply gave the nation a stick and said, here you go, use it. The United States continues to exercise control over that stick. And in doing so, the United States itself is recognizing that it has duties with respect to the water.
It seems to me like winters' rights are something different than tapping aquifers and helping come up with a plan or helping install pumps. I mean, are you arguing for those latter kinds of duties or just for winters' rights? Because it would be a different claim to say we have winters' rights and the government hasn't been asserting them on our behalf. They breached their trust obligation by blocking our intervention. That's a different kind of claim.
That's right. So let me be clear about what I think the scope of the winters' right is. The scope of the winters' rights includes access to sufficient water from pertinent water sources either within or along the border of the reservation. The United States has to ensure that access. We are not saying, as a matter of treaty interpretation, that the United States is legally obligated to pay for pipelines or aquifers or whatever. That whether the United States has a moral or political obligation to do that, as Mr. Liu acknowledged, I think it does. But in terms of the winters' rights under the treaty, that is really a right of access to an appurtenant water source.
So that's really just about intervening in litigation to assert those on the Navajo's behalf and to protect them. Right? Like to safeguard those rights so that you're not deprived of them, as Justice Gorsuch was pointing out. The Navajo haven't had an opportunity in Arizona versus California or any other time to assert those winters' rights and to have any rights in the mainstream adjudicated.
I think that's right, Justice Barrett.
And I mean, putting aside here like the whole question of the decree and whether you're trying to get rights to the mainstream, let's just take that part off the table. But really, one way to think about the breach of trust here, just to make sure that I'm clear, is that the United States failed to assert winters' rights on your behalf and, in fact, blocked you from watching out for yourselves.
Well, that's right. I was going to emphasize the last part. Not only failed to assert, but in fact put us in a catch-22 by keeping us out of the Arizona versus California litigation.
Why wouldn't you try to intervene in that litigation now?
I think there would be very significant obstacles to doing that without the United States support, including the states would assert sovereign immunity objections that the United States could overcome, query whether the nation could overcome those on its own, and the United States is not exactly volunteering to help us even after all of this litigation in terms of reopening the litigation that we were blocked out of.
Doesn't the failure to assert also carry with it an obligation to evaluate to the extent that the government is claiming that it doesn't assert because it didn't think that you had or needs for water or whatnot? So I don't know that it's as narrow as just they breach the fiduciary obligation of not asserting, but they also have to figure out the circumstances under which assertion is required.
Well, of course, Justice Jackson, and I think that the key first step in figuring out what claims to assert is assessing what are the needs and how are those needs going to be met. And
so a breach of fiduciary duty claim could rest on the Navajos claiming you haven't even done the legwork to determine whether or not to assert our rights.
Absolutely, and the breach of fiduciary duty in that situation would be analogous to a failure to provide an accounting of what's in the trust. Before you can figure out how to actually manage the trust, whether to assert the winters' rights in litigation, you have to figure out what is in the trust and what the needs of the trustee are.
The arguments pro and con regarding Navajo water rights: if you get the land, do you get the water? We don't have a projected date on a decision coming down from the High Court, but we will keep our eyes on this story. Stay with us. We're going to take a short pause, and then our colleague here, Morgan Taylor, will be right back.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Who am I? Am I Native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am, and meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hische Estongo, everybody. Morgan Taylor, Jaho Jifkados. We are back on Mvskoke Radio at 106.3 FM, 1240 AM, The Brew. And I have with me today professional MMA fighter Samson Tabitai. How are you today, Samson?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing good today.
So have you been training pretty hard?
Yes, actually, this is probably my first full camp, 6-week camp, so I've been putting in a lot of work. Obviously, I'm bruised up a little bit, but good to go.
Yeah, I look a little banged up this morning, but that's okay. I guess that's a part of it, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So what do you have coming up? You said a fight coming up on April 14th. Can you kind of give some details about that?
Yes, I'm fighting at River Spirit Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma, April 14th for Extreme Fight Night. This will be my 4th professional fight as a flyweight, 125. I'm fighting Joe McCormick, who's also out of Tulsa, and looking forward to it.
What are you expecting? Is he a good fighter?
Yeah, he's good. I've been watching him, and actually, after his last fight, I ended up taking a grappling match that same night. Like, they hit me up that day after I got done running, and it was like, you want to grapple? I was like, yeah. And he ended up fighting that night, and he finished his opponent in the first round, and I was like, I guarantee they're going to try and match us up in the future, and it ended up being the next fight.
Yeah, you called it. Wow, that's crazy. So what are you doing to prepare? Like, what kind of different techniques are you using, and what are you implementing into your routine?
Well, I'm just main thing is keeping up with my cardio. I hate running, but coach wants me to run. He said 5 miles a day, 4 to 5 days a week, but I've been doing it 5-6 days a week, 5 miles. I don't like running less. Sometimes I run more on Sundays. So I've just been mainly trying to keep up with my cardio. He's been working with me a lot. Actually, both coaches, Coach Leo over at Forza, and then all my coaches at the factory, they've been helping me out, giving me pointers and helping me really tighten up my skills.
Okay, so you said the factory in Forza. Can you kind of describe what you mean when you say that?
Well, Forza Combat Sports in Broken Arrow is my striking gym. I go there Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturday. And then the Factory Grappling Clubs in Tulsa is my grappling gym. I do all my wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling-based MMA there. And just to get that all-around work. And, yeah, we got high-level guys, black belts, ex-UFC fighters. Current UFC flyweight is at Forza with me right now. He's helping me get ready for this next fight. And, yeah, I'm just...
So do they kind of, like, back you and support you as a fighter? Like, do they sponsor you, or how do you kind of get involved into these? How'd you get to where you're at today? Let's just start from there. Where did you start at till now?
Well, actually, I had my first fight, I think 7 years ago this month. It was a kickboxing match, but I didn't train for it. I had a heavy bag in my backyard, and I grew up harder. I was 21, and I kept telling myself if I didn't get a fight, but by the time I was 21, I probably wouldn't fight. And then I ended up getting matched up 2 weeks before my 21st birthday. And it was after my birthday, but I got matched up on this card. My friend Jerry Deere, he contacted me, or I contacted him, and I was like, I want to fight. I seen him in Walmart one time, and he just we talked, and he ended up getting me a fight because I wanted to see where I was at, and he got me that fight. I ended up winning in the first round. And then he introduced me to my current manager, Dorothy Foss, and she introduced me to the factory, and I started training there. But my first 6 fights, I didn't really have a gym. I just worked out and
Just what you knew from the streets, I guess, right?
Yeah. My first MMA fight was my, I guess, wake-up call, because it was all my other ones were striking. I didn't need no ground game, and I didn't grow up wrestling or nothing. So I fought another top Tulsa fighter, and he ended up taking me down every round, and he ended up getting me in the choke in the third. But I put up a good fight. Like, he was undefeated. He was their champ, and I think we fought at 145 that time. And I walk around at 145, so like I didn't cut weight. Like, I fought at 45. I fought at 55 twice. I should have never fought there, but I did. I just like fighting, and I was just getting involved. I didn't really know nothing about it, and I got in there and fell in love with the gym. After my loss, of course, I was like, I have to grapple. So my manager, Dorothy, she pointed me to the factory, and I was there for a long time, and I'm still there, obviously, and we have, I think I've been with Forza like the last year and a half or so.
Okay. Let me just stop you right here really quick. And we were just talking about this before we got on the air. Can you describe what grappling is? Because, like, I've been seeing some, like, different people that I know get into it, and I just didn't even know what it was until you said something to me a second ago.
Yeah. Well, grappling is, like, it's a lot of, like, non-striking, so no hit, no punching, no kicks. It's a lot of chokes. It's like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, anything that you can basically use without actually hitting somebody. It's a great workout. I know quite a few people who do it just to lose weight. Like, you get bored at the gym and you don't like traditional weightlifting or running or something like that. You can come to a jiu-jitsu class, and like, I know some like people that's lost a lot of weight and just use it for weight loss, or just use it as a hobby, stress relief, whatever.
Why the separation between grappling and, like, striking, like you said?
Well, grappling is its own kind of its own sport. I guess when I first started, there was more fighters there at the time, and like, we're still building up a little bit. So I think I'm the only current fighter at the moment at the factory. We got a lot of fighters at Forza that are around my age. The factory, I love it. It's a lot of old school guys. We got Daniel Roberts. He's a UFC vet and black belt there. Coach Clay Mars, he's the owner and black belt, like our main black belt there. And we got a bunch of high level guys. I think we got like 4 or 5 black belts just in our gym. So I need that grappling perspective and that grappling knowledge just to help with my fighting, because most fights are going to end up in a clinch or on the ground. So I need to be in tune with that as well.
Okay, yeah, I see. And you learned that, like you said, from your first fight.
Yeah.
But you said right now you're on a winning streak. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm on a 2-fight winning streak. My last fight was in October 22nd in Kansas. I fought for Synergy FC. I got knocked out of the night. So I'm coming off of that and hoping to make it 3 in a row.
Is that like some high energy, like coming off of it, like going into your next fight?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely the momentum's rolling. I know my opponent, he's coming off a first round finish as well, so it's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a good fight.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all both have really, kind of like level, strengths there. Like, so why are the fights so far apart? Is it like their particular season, or do you have to wait a particular amount of time?
Well, I could have fought. I've been trying to get on the card or get the right matchup. I let my coaches and my manager discuss opponents and discuss offers and stuff like that. And sometimes we wait for a bigger opportunity and then we don't end up getting it. So I missed out on a couple fights because of that. But it's all working out in the end. I'm just trusting the process and trusting my coaches and manager to do the right thing. And so I can just focus on training and focus on fighting rather than all the other stuff.
So you do this full time?
Yeah, pretty much.
And well, why do you do this full time?
Well, it's just fun. I love it. This is the only thing I really can see myself doing. Like, at least for now. Obviously, there's life after fighting, but this is all I want to do right now.
All right, I appreciate that. So you're also kind of getting your family into it. You have a little family, you know, you have kids and a sweet lady, so you're all getting into it. So what's that like, having a family affair there?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, my girl, she made her kickboxing debut last month. Yeah, last month, February 11th. She won a unanimous decision. So yeah, it's cool. Our oldest, he's wrestling. We're friends with Gerald Harris, who was also a fighter, UFC vet. He owns Hurricane Training Center in Tulsa, and he owns the Hurricane Wrestling Academy. So we're trying to get the kids involved more in wrestling there, in between training and stuff like that. So.
Well, surely there's kind of like a lot of fees attached to this kind of sport. Does it equal out when you like are able to win and stuff, or is it pretty high dollar?
Training does cost a pretty good amount but if you want to fight or you want to train, then it's got to be worth it. I do part-time as well, like as security. I work downtown at the bars, and then just odd jobs here and there, just when I need extra cash. Yeah. But for the most part, I know it's gonna pay off. I know I'm good enough to make it, and I just gotta believe in myself.
Yeah, you gotta believe in yourself, and sometimes that's putting your all into it. So you don't really seem like a aggressive kind of guy. Like, I'm sure that can be kind of I don't know, if I was your opponent, it might throw me off a little bit, you know? Is that kind of like a thing you try to maintain?
Yeah. Well, I've never been more of the aggressive type, I guess. More passive. Like, I try to avoid most conflicts and avoid situations that, you know, become physical. And I've always been that way. And then, like, I don't know.
Just like the skill of it, I guess?
Yeah. Well, like, even growing up, like, I fought a lot, but it was mostly my brothers. Like, yeah. And obviously, like, me and my younger brother, we were 18 months apart. He's 18 months younger than me, but he was always big. Like, he's bigger than me now too. So we always fought, and he definitely made me tougher and made me who I am.
So would you say that he's kind of an inspiration behind your journey here, do you have other inspirations as well?
Well, yeah, I just really, my family grew up fighting. My dad, well, not just like fighting in cages, but we grew up kind of rough lives. And my dad, I think he did kung fu or did something when he was younger, and he always did like UFC watch parties, so we would all watch UFC together and stuff like that. And I think he was alive. He passed away, I think, at the year I started fighting, towards the end of the year. And so he didn't really get to see me fight all that much, and he never saw me fight in person. But like, he's like my main reason why I got involved.
Oh, okay. So you do this in honor of your dad?
Yeah, kind of. I love it for myself as well, because you have to love it for yourself. But I know he'd be proud of me just knowing that I'm fighting. He didn't like us losing though. Yeah. Growing up, he's like, man, if you lose this fight, you're gonna lose
Spend the
too.
night in the doghouse. Yeah, I got you. So speaking of losing, so what do you do to try to protect yourself? Because like you said, you got a boo boo today, and so what do you do to try to prevent those? Can they be kind of harming to you?
No, not really. There's a saying like, the more you bleed in training, the less you bleed in the fight.
Okay.
So the bumps and bruises now can prevent pretty much what happens in the fight. The better the outcome. So I'm taking all this damage now, so I don't take it in the fight.
I see. Okay, so are they pretty hard on you?
Yeah. Training's been. Coach has been up in the level, and then I've been pushing myself as well, just to maintain pressure and just maintaining the aggressiveness. No rounds off. At my grappling gym factory, we've been doing 8-minute rounds instead of 5s, and then Forza we'll do all our kickboxing rounds with sparring, and then we do MMA rounds at the end, and then we'll do shark tanks with like a bunch of stuff. It's coach has been implementing different training methods as well.
Okay.
We added MMA classes and a bunch of guys.
Have you ever been knocked out?
Yeah.
What's that like?
It sucked, not gonna lie. It was my first time ever I ever got knocked out was in my pro debut, and yeah, in front of everybody.
Oh, man.
I was like, man. And then I didn't know I got knocked out. I thought it was a TKO. I didn't know what happened. And I just remember being in the back. I was like, man, this sucks.
That's like supposed to be your like big one, right?
Yeah. I was like, this is it. It's happening. It's my time. And then I don't know. I'm not making no excuses. I trained good. Everything went good. I got caught. We was both throwing. I guess I got caught more in the brawl, and I didn't stick to my game plan and stick to my best. I just felt flat. Even watching the fight, I looked flat. I
lost your technique, maybe.
Yeah, I just wasn't there. But like I said, the training went good. Everything went good. It just didn't happen. I lost to Tyrell Hill. He's from North Carolina, or he fights out of North Carolina, and they flew him in, and we fought at a catchweight at 130, and we was banging it out like we was just trading punches, and I went for something, and he ducked and caught me, and I went down, and that was it. I didn't play smart either. I tried to bite down and just fight my way out of it, and got caught a few more times and ended up getting knocked out.
Well, you're going to have those, it's fighting, so I guess at least you got it out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least it happened early on,
Yeah.
so now you can kind of move forward from that little bit of a maybe embarrassment for you, I don't know. Is that how you felt? Were you
Well, it wasn't really, it's not embarrassing. It sucks. I hate losing, but
yeah.
And then I didn't never think I was going to get knocked out, so
it happens, I guess, to the best of us.
Yeah.
I get knocked out in
It was
various
a wake-up
ways.
call.
Yeah. So what are you doing to prepare for the upcoming fight? You said Hell Week. What do you do during Hell Week?
We just do a bunch of Shark Tanks. So
What's a Shark Tank?
So I'll do my fights 3 5-minute rounds. So we do 3 5-minute rounds of sparring after sparring, but maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes in, I'll get a fresh person in. So I'm steadily getting new people in each.
Okay, yeah.
Like in between rounds. So one round I'll have like 2, 3 different people, while I'm putting in a lot of work, like all the effort for the entire round.
Oh, yeah, that's like a new person that's like not tired,
Yeah.
their skill, like all that. So.
Yeah. So I'll get like 2 or 3, like they'll split the round. Like I might get 2.5 minutes with this person, 2.5 minutes with this, or I might get 2 minutes, a minute.
I
It
got
just
you.
depends.
What do you do to like cut weight?
I do water loading. So like Sunday, I drink like a gallon of water a day anyway, but like Sunday, I'll up it. I'll drink like 2 gallons of water. Monday, I'll drink 2 gallons. Tuesday, I'll drink 2 gallons. And then Wednesday, I won't drink nothing. And then Thursday, I won't drink nothing. Wednesday and Thursday, I don't drink or eat anything really.
Do you get hungry?
Yeah, it sucks. I hate cutting weight, but I haven't had a problem with it. My first fight, I fought at 125. Actually made the 125 cut. I woke up Monday morning, I was 141, and then cut 16 and a half pounds and made weight Thursday night. So like 4.5 days, I was able to cut 16 and a half pounds.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
like super up and down too.
Yeah, but it's water weight. So like all that weight, most of the weight I cut the day before and the day of. I think I cut like 3 or 4 pounds the day of weigh-ins.
Why is it so important to like get that lower weight?
Well, everybody's cutting weight, it seems like, and like I say, I walk around. I think I'm light 40s right now, like 141, in between 40 and 45, walking around. So if I cut to 35, a lot of guys are cutting from 160 walking around, cutting to 135. So then they come in the fight, they're 25 pounds heavier, they're stronger.
Right. So you only have to make weight that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next day, fight day, I think I've gotten back up to 140 each time I've cut weight. So I weigh in at 125. By the time I'm actually in the cage, I'm 140.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's a little trick there.
Yeah.
Is there any like special dinner that you have or like special breakfast you have that morning that's like your lucky breakfast, or you do any weird thing that's like, this is going to help me?
No, I actually don't. After weigh-ins, I try to get a smoothie. I love tropical smoothies. So I'll get one of the Island Green smoothies from there, and that's my main thing. After that, I'll just try to get me a good meal and rehydrate. And
that's what you do?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have like a walkout song, like the super, like,
Well, XFN, we don't get to pick our walkout songs. They do something, but when I have my little brother raps, so, and then my friend makes all the beats and produces all the music, or he's like my cousin, and like we grew up, and then my other friend, he raps and stuff like that.
Is it HV and all them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did a story with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been making all my walkout songs. My brother Matt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's your brother.
Yeah. My baby brother.
He's so funny.
Yeah. He's definitely the comic.
Yeah. He's something else. Yeah, they're fun. So you listen to them to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you're training and everything.
I got a whole playlist, mostly just my homie songs and my friends' songs, and I listen to that when I run. If I listen to music, I've been trying to run without music just so I can, I guess, talk myself in, because it sucks. You got to think about running. You're like, I can stop here. I can stop. You constantly battling, so it's more of a mental run when I run without music.
Do you do 5 miles at once, or do you break it up?
No, it's a 5-mile run.
At once.
Yeah, where I live at, there's this hill. I run past this school, and then it's a back road hill. I run all the way up, all the way down. It's like almost to the bottom. It's like 2.5 miles, and then I turn right back around and go up and back down.
So you get hills in there too.
Yeah,
That sucks.
It's like, I think the stretch is probably a mile up and a mile down each side.
Yeah, wow. I used to run a lot, and I liked it, but I couldn't do it without music. I don't know, I might go crazy. What do you do to encourage others, like to try to get into this, or maybe just in general?
I just say, chase your dreams, really. Anybody who wants to try it out, like, I've had a few kids. I was at Creek Fest, I think it was last year, and 2 kids came up to me. They knew me from Facebook, and they knew me from fighting. And it was like, they told me I inspired them to get into it, and they were boxers. And I told them, like, anytime they can make it to the gym or whatever, we can get some work in, or just hit me up on Facebook. And I thought that was really cool. I just, I didn't start till I was 21. I started late. Most fighters now are
Starting in diapers.
yeah. They're 4-year-olds that got better mitt work than I.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter when you start, or if you want to just train and not fight. I've known fighters that they go in there, they fight one time, and that's all they want to do. But the training is there. It's cool. Jiu-jitsu for self-defense,
Right.
a workout, the camaraderie. It's just, both gyms became it's like a family.
Right. Yeah. I get that. Are you one of the only? Are there any other Native American fighters out there?
I don't think we have any other Native American fighters there. There's at Forza, we have a few natives there, and then at Factory we have some that come to train, but I don't think we have any that actually fight at the moment besides me.
So have you had to have any opponents that were Native American?
I don't think so. No, yeah, my first fight, I fought this guy from Okmulgee, 1G, and I beat him. He was Creek too, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, little crazy Creek there.
Yeah.
What's it like being a Mvskoke res kid and coming up and people are looking up to you? Other res kids.
It's cool. It's cool. I come down here. I think I came down here the other day to Okmulgee and just ran through town, just memory lane, I guess. And
when you used to run these streets and stuff,
yeah, back and forth, west side, east side, Crutchmer, Indian Homes, everywhere.
Yeah. Taylor Drive.
Yeah.
Paula, no.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
It's cool, and then they got the reservation dogs now. I was like, dang, I used to live there. Right?
So do you live in Tulsa now?
Yeah, I live towards Turley now,
okay.
North Tulsa. So it's 63rd Street North, way out there. And they allowed my dogs. I got 2 pit bulls, and it's so hard to find people that allow pit bulls.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, it's a pit bull is perfect for your intro right here.
Yeah.
Well, we just have a few minutes left, so where can people buy the tickets for April 14th?
I actually have paper tickets on me. I have the $45 tickets, and then $65 tickets are available, and I think if they're still available, they got $105 tickets. I know all the tables are already sold out.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
good.
Because
I think they're $500 table, and it seats 4, so 125 per person. And they sold out, so that was good. But I have $45 tickets on me.
Okay, great. And where can they get a hold of you, watch you, see you?
Samson Tabby Tight on Facebook, SampsonTabbyTite. It's Samson Tabby Tight fight page, and then on Instagram it's Samson Tabby Tight MMA, and that's how you can get a hold of me.
Yeah, we're friends on stuff, so I've been following you, so I'm glad we got to do this today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm going to kick it over to Gary really quick. Gary, how are things?
Take a short pause here, and we got a few announcements to share, and then we're out of here.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Okay, we're back and wrapping it up. Now, we hope that you have been able to get out and enjoy some of these wild onion dinners. They're back after a couple of years, and from what I've seen in the crowds and talking to people, they really, really missed them. So everyone I've been to has been absolutely packed. It was so good to have the onions. So we have a couple more here on our list. we'll share those for you, and then we've got some other announcements. First of all, on April 1st, the Wild Onion Dinner at Springfield United Methodist Church in Okemah. And on April 22nd, the last on my list is the Wild Onion Dinner at the Angie Smith Memorial United Methodist Church in Oklahoma City.
And I think there are Facebook groups that are called Wild Onion Dinners. If anybody's on social that you can't find one on our list, might be able to find one closer to home. But April 3rd, 6 to 9 p.m., there's an intertribal hymn singing. And for more information, you can email raineaton@ou.edu. And then on April 29th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., Tulsa Creek Indian Community Spring Fling Arts and Crafts Sales are seeking vendors $10 a table. All vendors must fill out a MCN, Mvskoke Creek Nation, vendor sales license application. For more info, call 918-298-2464. And then don't forget the Mvskoke Art Market coming on the, I believe, 22nd at River Spirit Casino. Lots going on this month, and just the springtime. Keep your socials linked to ours, and you'll be able to find some of that going on.
The Mvskoke Creek Nation Scholarship Foundation has announced the opening of its fall application period, so students may apply online at creeknationfoundation.org/scholarships, and it's open now through June the 1st. So for more information, 732-7755. Okay, that'll do it for us. You got anything else to kick around?
No, we're going to be busy. A lot going on.
Yeah, and then we have, of course, later on this summer, hopefully a festival will be back.
Yes, I'm sure.
And, of course, the art market. It looks like a pretty big deal there, so we want to check that out. You know, I've seen notices in national publications about that event, and so it's really drawing some attention around the nation.
Well, River Spirit's perfect place.
Okay. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mvskoke.